Chapter 8 Go up the mountain, enter the door. When Shinshiobai heard this, his face was covered with black lines, and he covered his face with embarrassed hands. Teacher, this junior brother is a man. Wang Xan hurriedly smoothed things out. Oh. Pang Hanshin smiled awkwardly. Shinshiobai really looked like a woman, especially his handsome face. Is this look specially dressed? Elder, I'm in a hurry. I haven't had time to sort it out. Shinshiobai said. Yeah. Pang Hanshin nodded, pointed at Wang Xian, and said, try him first. Me? Wang Xian looked at himself suspiciously. His rank is dark red, and his strength is definitely up to the standard of this recruitment, so he's just a little worse than you. Just give him a try. Pang Hanshin said. Okay. Wang Xian agreed, looking at Shinshiobai. Junior brother Shin, is there any problem? Come on. Shinshiobai said, his dull eyes instantly became very sharp. Get out of the way. Wang Xian looked at the two disciples next to him and glanced at the table. The two disciples understood in an instant, and immediately ran away with the table. It started. Wang Xian clenched his fists tightly and his veins burst out. The powerful aura of spiritual power began to pour out, and Wang Xian waved his hand. A fiery red giant python quickly spewed out from the ground, opened its mouth full of fangs, and breathed out a thick white mist. The action quickly bit to Shinshiobai. Shinshiobai's sharp eyes turned into sharp swords, and endless spiritual power gathered in Shinshiobai's right palm. Boom! The powerful impact of the python smashed Shinshiobai into the air, and its wide-open mouth tried its best to bite Shinshiobai, who was stuck in its mouth. Shinshiobai's right palm suddenly exerted force, and one palm shattered the giant python's mouth full of fangs. The giant python suddenly roared and swayed violently, trying to shake Shinshiobai away. With the help of the python's swing, Shinshiobai stepped on the python's lower jaw and appeared on top of the python's head. This is my first time fighting someone. Shinshiobai whispered, and the violent spiritual power slammed onto the python's head along with Shinshiobai's fist. The python shattered in response, and countless spiritual fragments of various sizes scattered in the air. Shinshiobai took advantage of the situation to land, stepped on his right foot suddenly, and his body rushed towards Wang Xian like a cannonball. Wang Xian stared at Shinshiobai. He didn't expect that Shinshiobai's power exceeded his expectations. The speed is so fast. Senior brother, I'm sorry. Shinshiobai stared at Wang Xian's wide eyes, and slammed his right fist on Wang Xian's chest. Boom! A powerful aura wave swept through the audience. Wang Xian's right palm firmly blocked Shinshiobai's right fist. No matter how much strength Shinshiobai's right fist tried, he couldn't advance any further. Junior brother. You underestimate senior brother too. Wang Xian smiled coldly, and the fiery red spiritual power turned into a vortex and hovered above Wang Xian's palm. Wang Xian slapped Shinshiobai's chest, and the latter's body flew out and fell heavily to the ground. Seeing this scene, Pang Hanshin on the side nodded deeply. Shinshiobai's dirty clothes became even more dirty. Wang Xian, it's a bit heavy to start. Yang Xiao quietly looked at Shinshiobai, who was slowly getting up. Senior brother has wronged me. Junior brother seems to have fallen quite hard, but he didn't get hurt much. Wang Xian was very helpless. The moment his palm touched Shinshiobai, he felt that his body was so hard. Like a rock, Wang Xian's strength almost didn't impress Shinshiobai. Shinshiobai patted the dust on his body, walked to Wang Xian expressionlessly, and bowed. Said, thank you for your advice. It was Shinshiobai who underestimated the disciples of Zhuangxingmen, and he had only cultivated for half a year. He has no experience in dealing with people, so he has a strength but can't show it. No wonder it was easily beaten back by Wang Xian. However, with Shinshiobai's rock-like body, he was able to resist beatings. You're welcome. Wang Xian said with a smile. Elder, can I join Zhuangxingmen now? Shinshiobai faced Pang Hanshin and saluted again. Of course you can enter, you can come to my door in the future. Pang Hanshin looked at Shinshiobai with a smile, and the smile became more and more thief. This new disciple is much more polite than that kid Chinen. Why did you come to your door? You are also worthy of teaching him? The white breeze hit instantly and knocked down several big trees with crooked necks. Elder Mu Bai, who was wearing the costume of an elder of Zhuangxingmen, landed in front of Pang Hanshin and looked at him coldly. Teacher, you're here. Yang Xiao stepped forward and saluted. Just now, Yang Xiao took out the sound transmission stone and called his teacher to come. The best talent should stay in Mu Bai's hands, and no one else can take it away. Besides, Shinshiobai was also brought by him. Hello, Elder Mu. Wang Xan hurriedly pulled Shinshiobai to his side and shouted with him. Mu Bai patted Yang Xiao on the shoulder and smiled kindly at him. This smile seems to be saying to Yang Xiao, I didn't teach you in vain. Elder Mu, what are you doing here? Pang Hanshin looked at Mu Bai's unkindness. Did I not make it clear just now? Mu Bai glanced at Pang Hanshin. But he has already entered my door. Elder Mu, you are late. After Pang Hanshin finished speaking, he looked at Wang Xian and gave him a wink. Right? Oh, that's right. Wang Xian immediately understood what he meant when he saw the wink from Pang Hanshin. Elder Mu, you are late. Shinshiobai looked at Wang Xian in surprise, and just as he was about to speak, Wang Xian covered his mouth. Mu Bai naturally caught sight of this action, but he seemed to have not seen it, and said to Pang Hanshin, You are very courageous now. Dare to snatch someone from me. What did Elder Mu say? You are the one who robbed me. Pang Hanshin put his hands on his chest. Really? Mu Bai asked suspiciously, and gave Yang Xiao a wink at the same time. Yang Xiao nodded knowingly, and immediately disappeared in place, and a flash appeared in front of Wang Xian. With a playful smile, he looked at Wang Xian, his right hand suddenly buckled on Wang Xian's shoulder, and said, Junior brother, let's talk in another place. Before he finished speaking, Yang Xiao grabbed Wang Xian and threw him hundreds of meters away. After a while, several screams came. Senior brother, take it easy. Take it easy. Ah, don't slap your face. Shinshiobai quietly stood by and watched the show of stealing people. Elder Mu, why do you have to ask Yang Xiao to come forward every time you have a dispute with you? Pang Hanshin sighed. Except for Chinen, who ranked first in the Lingwu ranking, no one in Zhuangxingmen can beat Yang Xiao. Because of this, Mu Bai often used Yang Xiao as a thug to fight for something for him. If the old man doesn't make a move, no one in Zhuangxingmen can beat Yang Xiao except Chinen. We old guys are not suitable for hands and feet, of course we can only show up in small ways. Mu Bai looked at Pang Hanshin jokingly, he was very confident in Yang Zhao's strength. Huh? Yang Xiao appeared in front of Mu Bai and patted his clothes. He saluted Mu Bai and said, Teacher, Wang Xian recruited, but Elder Pang didn't bring junior brother Shin to his door. How? Do you want to fight me? Mu Bai smiled and looked at Pang Hanshin. Okay. Pang Hanshin's face was ashen, and he nodded angrily. Said, You are cruel. Pang Hanshin left here without looking back, grabbed Wang Xian, who was lying on the ground with a bruised nose and a swollen face, and returned to his residence, Hanshin Pavilion. Teacher, senior brother Yang has improved again. I really can't beat it. Wang Xian said to Pang Hanshin in tears. I know, Yang Xiao is indeed a genius. Pang Hanshin sighed slightly. Mu Bai does teach people, Yang Xiao is an example. I can rest assured that Shinshiobai will be handed over to him. I will never give in so easily if it is someone else. Pang Hanshin said solemnly. Okay, it's all right now. Mu Bai patted Shinshiobai on the shoulder and looked at Shinshiobai with a smile. Mu Bai's smile made Shinshiobai shudder, and he didn't know whether it was because the weather became cold or something else. I am Yang Zhao's teacher and the elder of Xuanxingmen. My name is Mu Bai. Mu Bai said. Hello, Elder Mu, my name is Xinqiubai. Xinqiubai said. Mu Bai nodded, looked at Yang Xiao, and said, take your junior brother to take a bath first and change clothes. If he wants to cut his hair too, it will look weird. Yes, teacher. Yang Xiao replied respectfully. Junior brother, let's go. Yang Xiao said to Xinqiubai and walked up the mountain. Xinqiubai hurriedly followed, but when he reached the top of the mountain, he was a little dumbfounded. Xuanxingmen is located on the top of the mountain in the center of Xuanqing City, and on the top of the mountain is a huge plain. On this plain, there are a few ancient buildings scattered here and there. There are attics, bungalows, and a few large halls, but they all look extremely shabby. It looks like a dilapidated house in disrepair. This is incompatible with the scenery at the foot of the mountain, which looks like a fairyland. But at this moment, when I reached the top of the mountain, I found it looked like a large slum. At this moment, Xinqiubai finally understood that what Yang Xiao said at the foot of the mountain was indeed a mere appearance. Senior brother, are you sure this is Xuanxingmen? Xinqiubai finally couldn't help but ask, this place doesn't look much better than Lingkong village. Didn't I tell you before I went up the mountain? Yang Xiao said, looking back at Xinqiubai. Xinqiubai was speechless. He didn't think so much at the time. He always thought that Yang Xiao was joking with him. But came up and found. Just accept it slowly. The days to come are still long. Yang Xiao walked quickly. Xinqiubai shook his head helplessly, and immediately followed. At this moment, the 8 families of Qi Xuanqing received a message. This time, the Xuanxingmen recruited disciples for a few days and no one signed up, but today a young man dressed as a beggar entered the Xuanxingmen. Soon after, Xuanxingmen announced the end of enrollment, and the 8 schools suddenly surged. They are checking the details of this young beggar. The Zhang family in Xuanqing City was the first to get the news, and also the first to understand the strength of the young beggar. Because the middle-aged man at the gate of the city was the spies arranged by the Zhang family. At that time, a deacon of the Zhang family on the tower happened to appear there, and at a glance, he could see that the young beggar was not simple. So they arranged for people to test and track the news. In a room of Zhang's residence. Patriarch, isn't the Xuanxingmen specially set up this time for that young beggar? An elder from the Zhang family in the dark of the room said to Mr. Zhang Sujuan of the Zhang family in front of him. The realm and age cards are just right, they should be specially prepared for that young beggar. Zhang Sujuan said. Xuanxingmen suddenly announced that it is recruiting again this time, but the requirements are so high. Obviously contrary to common sense, but at this time, just one person has successfully entered the Xuanxingmen. This had to make the Zhang family nervous. After all, Qinan was injured by the Zhang family's black hands. At this time, Xuanxingmen recruited another person, and it is very likely to replace Qin An's position. Go and check the details of the young beggar, and see if it is possible to win over to us. Also check Chen An's situation. Zhang Sujuan ordered. Yes. Elder Zhang in the dark replied respectfully and withdrew. Xuanxingmen, it's time for you to dominate Kixuanxing. Zhang Sujuan opened his blood-red eyes, and his clothes were covered with terrifying black snake patterns. Qinan is just the beginning. Zhang Sujuan smiled sinisterly, his body surrounded by black mist. A suffocation spread throughout the room. Everything in the room disappeared quietly as if blown by the wind. Inside the Mu Pavilion of the Xuanxingmen Mu Bai. There was a burst of heat in a room, and Xinqiubai was lying in the bathtub cleaning his greasy and messy hair. After a while, Xinqiubai walked out of the bathtub, picked up the towel next to the bathtub and wiped off the water remaining on his body. Outside the room, Yang Xiao walked in with a set of Xuanxingmen disciples' costumes. Fuck. Yang Xiao blurted out when he saw Shinchiabai, who was naked.